Hi guys, my name is Coach Vassar. Thank you for joining me. This is OTF Audio Daily Beats. We're going to go over day 5 of the 12 days of fitness. This is Thursday, December 5th. This was the design team favorite workout. It's an ESP 30-30 day. This was last ran on February 5th on a Monday. So if you coached on then, this might be a little familiar for you. We'll kind of talk about a little bit of everything, key concepts, and then treads, rower, weight floor, and then of course the 3G. As always, if you're new to these, thank you for joining me. Any feedback, please let me know. You could message me on GroupMe. You could also leave a comment on the description of the video. Speaking of, in the description, you'll find information on how to support me. Looking at the workout here, key concepts, like I said, this is going to be the creative minds of the design team picking their favorite template of 2024. On the treads, we're going to see 3 blocks, different emphasis on either endurance, strength, or power. We have paired efforts in block 1. In block 2, we have hill pyramids. And then in block 3, it's a build to establish power. For the rower, you have an endurance, strength, and power row, 1 time each. They get shorter, so your intensity should increase. And then on the floor, each block has a different emphasis, either endurance, strength, or power. Today, improve in all areas of your fitness. So with the treads, we're going to see that you should feel like your intensity climbs up from block to block. Each block has 2 distinct parts with a walk recovery in between. Block 1, it's a pair of a push and all out. And then in block 2, it's 2 hill pyramids. And then in block 3, it's 2 different builds. When we look at the blocks here, block 1, 7.5 minutes, 90-second walk recovery. And then block 2, 6.5 minutes, 90-second walk recovery. And then block 3, another 6.5 minutes. As I mentioned, there are 2 parts within the block. So when we look at block 1, your first part is a 3-minute pair. It's a 2-minute push, 1 minute all out, and then a 90-second block recovery with the goal of getting back to base AQAP and as quick as possible. So overall goal for the block, of course, is to increase intensity on the second pair. Knowing that for that first 2-minute push, start them on that conservative end. Power walkers, 5% or greater. Joggers and runners, I probably put them between 1 to maybe 1.5 over their base. We should see heart rate climb up, and then during like the last, of the pair, like during the last 45 seconds to 30 seconds, they should start tapping into that orange. That's a true conservative thing for that. 1 minute all out. Set expectations that it's going to get very uncomfortable. Heart rate will continue to climb. Power walkers, 10% or greater. Joggers and runners, 2 or more over that base speed. Bikes and striders, they were probably about 3 gears over base. Now let's get them to about 6 gears over base for that full minute. Now, when it comes to the recovery, a couple things to kind of keep in mind. 3 different ways to kind of base this off of. You could go off of heart rate response. So when heart rate starts to trend downward, their body is starting to recover, they could get back to base. So if they see themselves like work their way towards the green, so if they're in the low orange, if they get back to base, their heart rate will continue to come down towards that green. If they have really strong heart rate response recovery, and that comes down pretty quick, they'll get back to base very fast. The other way is to kind of go off of how they feel. So after that all out, obviously they're going to be very breathless and they're going to, like that. But when they start to breathe normally, they're ready to get back to base. And then a lot of times for some members, it's just a matter of time duration and they just have to get back to base. They choose to be ready rather than they wait to get ready. So maybe they only allow themselves 30 seconds of a walk, then they're back to work. Obviously that's a very different mindset that most people have. But there are some people who are like that, especially former athletes who are told like, you gotta go. They just have that switch to, all right, time to work, and they get right back to it. Now the second pair pushes 2 minutes all out, still 1 minute, but we are looking to increase. So for that push, could they go up 0.1 to 0.3 on their speed or more? Power walkers maybe add 1 to 3%. On the bikes and striders, instead of 3, maybe 4 gears over base, maybe a little bit higher RPM to also generate more power. Same thing for the all out. Higher incline, higher speed, more wattage. Check in with them. Once they have finished, hey, who was able to increase intensity for both parts? Awesome. Kudos to you, John. Way to crush it there, Sarah. All right, that's block 1. They'll have a 90-second walk recovery, get back to base when they're ready. Block 2, we're going to see a 2.5 minute hill pyramid. Same 90-second walk recovery, get back to base when ready, and then another 2.5 minute hill pyramid. Now, we're going to see 4, 5, 6, 5, 4 on the incline for the joggers and runners. Power walkers are going to be 2% higher. So 6, 7, 8, 7, 6. And the first build, they're holding their base speed. So it's gonna feel like a base push. It kind of apex up at that uncomfortable, and then they start to come down. But because of fatigue, that effort is gonna feel relatively the same, even though it does get easier. They'll have a 90-second walk recovery. Here, they'll get back to base when they're ready. So they might take the full walk. They might get to base, after about 45 seconds to a minute. It's more about developing that recovery so that they can hit the goal in the second hill without sacrificing incline. The second hill, the goal is to actually increase their speed at the same inclines. So power walkers try to repeat the hills, 0.1 to 0.3 higher on their walk speed. Joggers and runners, they're gonna hold a base push. So a good reference point is, hey, what did you do for your 2-minute push? What's your base? Let's use something right in the middle. So it's probably gonna be, maybe around 0.5-ish above their base speed. Can they hold that as they do that same hill? All right, one thing to keep in mind is give them that information ahead of time during that 90-second walk recovery, because that might dictate how long they take that walk, okay? Third block, this is a build for 2.5 minutes. They start at base for 30 seconds. Every 30, they are gonna increase. As I mentioned in previous videos, with builds like this, I like to give that overview, saying power walkers, every 30 seconds, you're gonna increase your incline between 1 to 3%. Joggers and runners, let's add 0.3 to 0.7 or more on that speed. You can even reduce it, maybe say add 0.1 to 0.5 to their speed. But whatever you want to do, try to have them make those same jumps on every build. So let's start at base push, push all out. And then they apex at that all out. Take a full 90-second walk recovery, because hopefully that all out definitely set them at that threshold of needing that walk for 90 seconds. And then on that second build, they are looking to make bigger increases. So increase the overall intensity in the second build. So if they went up by 0.4 every time, see if they could go up by 0.5 every time. If power walkers went up by 2%, see if they could go up by 3% every time. Bikes and striders, if they went up by 1 gear, maybe 1 gear and 3 to 5 RPMs higher than before. So a lot of different ways to kind of challenge and increase that intensity on that build for the tread side, and that's the third block. Now when we look at the rower and weight floor, all blocks start with a row based off of that focus. So block 1 is an endurance. It's a 300-meter base row. So for those of you who started on the floor, this is like an extended warm-up. They'll probably get another minute on that rower, then they'll head to the weight floor, and we're gonna see high reps here. So for that base row, keep the 18 to 24 strokes per minute, maximizing that leg drive, get that full body warm-up. Hopefully, after they're set up, they're on the rower, they're gonna get back into the green during that. Now for the people who started on the treads and then now they're on the rower, heart rate's gonna be elevated from that treadmill even during that setup. So hopefully when they get on that rower, they're gonna be more in that high blue, barely tapping into the green. So by the time they start moving and rowing, they're gonna find that green zone and they're gonna feel pretty good. On the floor itself, you're gonna see work and rest in this block and the next one and the third one. So you have 12 reps, rest, and then the next movement. We're gonna see a contralateral single arm lateral shift. So dumbbell on one side, they're gonna bend the leg on the opposite side. They'll do 12 on there and then 12 on the other. And then that high plank switch alternate in low row. So they have one dumbbell, I like to line it up with the sternum. They have hand on either side, grab, drive that elbow back, reset, and then pull back up. My favorite cue to use this for this is think about wrist to your hip rather than wrist to the armpit. That way they get that engagement of the upper back. I live near an airport that does stuff for military, so we get low flying jets every once in a while. So that's block 1. That row, like I said, take about a minute. So these two movements here, 24 total reps is quite a bit. So each movement's probably gonna take about a minute, 30 seconds rest in between. So they should get at least 2 rounds of everything, if not 3. When we look at block 2, now we're gonna focus on strength. So a 200-meter push row, but the stroke rate is set between 22 and 24 strokes per minute. Leg drive, 7, maybe 8 out of 10, and really slow and controlled on that return forward. Drive back through water, slide forward through peanut butter, molasses, whatever kind of analogy you like to use. Be patient. You imagine like you're sneaking up on your friend to scare them and then yell at them as you drive back, whatever works. And then on the floor, we're gonna see a single arm split stance deadlift. Whichever hand has the weight, that's the foot that's gonna step back. And that's gonna be paired up with the knee-in hammer curl. So they're on both knees and then they're hitting that curl. If that bothers the knee, of course, use that kneel pad. For an option, they could do a single half kneel-in position. They'll give them a little bit more stability so they're less likely to lean back. With the split stance deadlift, one thing that I've noticed is like on the video, it's a really big step back. I personally find it more effective with like, instead of having your feet really separated, have that back foot toe like in line with the heel, and then they're still about hip width apart. And that's really all you need to do. So one way I kind of set up members for this is to have them, stand up, feet side by side, and then they're just gonna pick up one foot and just tap. And then they're right here. Dumbbells on this side, hips pushes back. They should do that stretch in that front leg. So that's gonna be the second block. Same thing, they'll probably get about 2 rounds in. And then finally, the third block, the final one, the power one. This is where we're gonna see 100-meter all-out row. That's it, they're done with the row. They can wipe it down, max effort. And then they're gonna pair that up with the single arm hip hinge swing, 4 to 8 reps, followed up with a neutral grip push press. So that hip hinge swing, obviously very explosive. We want to keep that weight close to their body as they pull their weight back. So we don't want to see them leaning over too much. Proud chest, hips pull back. The wrist kind of goes into the hip crease as they hinge back into it and explosively drive those hips forward. And that arm should get about shoulder height. If they could just lift the weight with the arm, it's probably too light. Also, if they have enough power to get that weight to go overhead or above their shoulder, 2 things to work on. One is think about lat recruitment. So really packing that shoulder down, keeping the lats tight, and keep everything more condensed. You'll see very similar things like that coaching cue when it comes to like kettlebell swings, Russian style version at least. And then the other thing is, if they are able to like explode up and keep that tight, they probably could go heavier as well. So they'll do 4 to 8 reps there, and then the neutral grip push press, 2 dumbbells right here, dip and drive. Once again, it's all about the power from the lower body to get that weight overhead. So if they could just strict press it, probably too light, get them to go a little bit heavier to force them to use that hip drive to explode up. And so that's gonna be the 2G. Finisher, of course, is just that push press for the final 30. Now, when we look at the 3G, we're gonna see 3 blocks here on the treads and the rower. Weight floor is gonna have 3 parts within one big block. So on the treads, block 1, endurance, then strength, then power, we're gonna see a 90-second pair. So 1 minute push, 30 all out. And then the walk recovery is only 45 seconds. But the same goal as in the 2G, they wanna get back to base as quick as possible. So maybe they only take about 15 to 20 seconds of a walk, and then boom, they're right back to it. And they're gonna trust their base to get that heart rate response recovery. Then they maintain or increase. So the big difference here is we are looking to at least maintain what they did, especially because it's a short recovery. Increasing would be a great challenge for a lot of people. Now in block 2, it's only a 90-second hill, 45-second walk recovery. 4, 5, 6, that's it. They'll walk and then repeat that 4, 5, 6 with an increased speed. And then the third block, the build is only 90 seconds. So they're actually gonna drop the first 2 intervals of it. So they're actually gonna start at a push all out, and then all out. Take the full 45 walk recovery, and then go back to that push all out, all out. So for the power walkers, they say 8% or greater, so they could probably bump up their incline by like 1.5 every 30. So 8, 9.5, maybe 10, 11. Joggers and runners probably set them, about 1.2, 1.8 over their base. So they have a little bit of wiggle room for that push into their push all out, and then hit their best 30-second all out. Now the rower, everything's timed up with the treads. So they have a 1 minute push row, and then a 30-second all out, 45-second recovery row. And then they'll repeat that build with the match or increase intensities in that pair. Now in the second block, this is gonna be a stroke rate focused row, 24 strokes per minute, then 26, then 28, 30 seconds each. So as the treadmills increase their incline, rowers are gonna increase the stroke rate. If people do it right, this should basically end up like a crew row. So if anything, if you wanna treat it like that, find someone who is at that correct stroke rate and try to have people match up with them. They'll have a 45-second recovery row, and then repeat that build, but now it's at a push all out. So we're not looking to speed up because it's the same stroke rate. the idea is to increase leg drive to increase their wattage. So they drive back harder, but they still take that patience on the way forward. For the third block, now it's a build on power. So push all out row. So this one, they could kind of play around. They could keep that same stroke rate and increase if they wanted to. And then that way they can naturally build their power that way. Now on the weight floor, we're gonna see 2 rounds for each section. So endurance will be the same 2 endurance movements, but they'll do 2 rounds. So lateral shift, plank low row, repeat. Then for the strength work, same thing, split stance deadlift, hammer curl for 2 rounds. And then for the power, single arm hip hinge swing, neutral grip push press, 2 rounds. And then they're gonna repeat all the exercises as 1 block, rest after each one. And then for the finisher, they choose their favorite one to do for the final 30 seconds. Obviously, if they do any of the single arm stuff, give them that halfway point so they know to switch arms if they want to even it out. Granted, 30 seconds of work on just one arm is not going to be the end of the world, but some people, they feel like they need that symmetry in their life. So let them know. That's it. That's all I got for you guys for day 5. Any feedback, let me know. You guys have a good one, and coach it down.